And some people will say, like Buddy Rich even, who of course I adore and I'm a huge fan of, but Buddy Rich said that this is the right grip and this is the wrong grip. I don't think so, because if this were the right grip, traditional grip, then why don't we all play like this? Both hands traditional. That would make sense. But it doesn't. Buddy Rich also played matched with one hand, if you know what I mean. So if Buddy played amazingly with this hand, why wouldn't he hold the other stick like that too? I'm sure he could just copy what this hand is doing with this hand, and I'm sure he could just match, this hand and that hand, and it would make a lot more sense. But again, he was one of those people who had an incredibly developed traditional grip. And of course, it's difficult to give that up after, 30 odd years of practicing like crazy to overcome this handicap of traditional grip, which is so unnatural. You don't want to give it up. And it happened to me too. I eventually made that decision to change it for many reasons, including injury. I had carpal tunnel syndrome. And of course, I was bored with this grip. I wanted a grip. I wanted a challenge in my playing. I wanted to change the most profound thing in my playing that I could change, which was, of course, the grip. And the grip affects everything on the drum set. It affects the way you set up your kit, angles of the drums. It affects reach. Of course, matched grip being much longer reach than a traditional grip. It affects the sound, your power. And I wanted that change in my playing, and while I was recovering from surgery, I decided to just start from scratch with a new grip, to just get a new, fresh breeze into my playing, and it worked for me. So I'm very happy with my decision. But I still revisit traditional grip. I still have all the chops I need to have. Even complex movements like molar strokes I can still do with traditional grip without really having practiced it for many years now. But it's still there because I did so much practicing back in the day. Let's go back to the asymmetry of this grip. Of course, traditional grip is an asymmetrical grip. This hand does not match that hand. The right hand comes from on top of the stick, and the left hand comes from underneath the stick. So this is a push and pull technique. So it's very interesting dynamically in your upper body. It's like a plus and minus, like a 1 and a 0. Completely different movements, completely different mechanics, and completely different techniques when we play like this. It's a bit like playing a guitar, where your two hands are doing something completely different. This hand is playing chords and pressing down strings, and this hand is strumming. But together, they produce the sound. They have to be perfectly coordinated, but you're still using completely different approaches and techniques with either hand. And it's the same here. This is the pulling down of the stick. This incorporates the fingers, and no wrist at all, for example. And this, the hand on top of the stick, creating so much more force. It takes years to balance that power between the two techniques and to get them to sound perfectly even and exactly the same. And it takes just a lot more time to develop this than match grip. The one thing that I find very, very interesting about traditional grip is that the asymmetry of the grip physically prompts an asymmetrical way of thinking. First, in regards to practicing, because you always have to practice more with your left hand than with your right hand. Simply by default, simply by the anatomical facts, conditioning your left hand to do this awkward movement just takes a lot longer than this very natural movement with the right hand. So that's the one asymmetry. A lot more practicing with your left hands. I found that I would be sitting there and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So I would do 3 or 4 times as much practice with the left hand than with the right hand. I would take a 1-bar phrase and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and so on. So 3 times as much, or literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So extreme focus on the left hand developing that power and that control with this handicap of a grip, okay? And if you do this over years and years and years and years, always focusing on the left hand, always emphasizing practicing and endurance and stamina development with the left hand, that has an effect on the way you think when you play the drums.